As far as metal goes, everyone's gotta start somewhere.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
But at some point it's time to take the training wheels off and explore the obscure. These are 10 more metal bands that have been dropping top quality material for years, but continue to largely linger in the shadows. And first up we have Cobalt. Definitely a lot of requests for this one. Cobalt is a Colorado band from 2003, headed by Eric Wonder with vocals originally from Phil McSorley and then later Charlie Fell of Lord Mantis. With an album named War Metal, you might already get a sense of what to expect, but it's a grimy fusion of black metal and sludge that really makes you feel like you need a shower afterwards.
Still not clean.
Repetition is frequently used in both hypnotic and bludgeoning ways for a strangely entrancing effect, especially on tracks like the doom-infused Elephant Graveyard. Eater of Birds and Gin are both more or less underground classics and a great place to start. But being a bit of a fanboy for my buddy Charlie's phlegmy snarls, I'm also a big fan of the double disc Slow Forever from 2016, which I was also fortunate enough to see performed live. Sadly, it doesn't seem like we'll be getting more Cobalt anytime soon, but if you haven't taken the dive, you definitely should, especially since it's only 4 full lengths and 2 EPs. Next up is Abyssal. This UK death metal band has been around since 2011 and highly recommended for fans of Portal, Ulcerate, and even Leviathan. Like those bands, their sound is deeply atmospheric with bellowing roars backed by cavernous walls of distortion. Anti-Catastasius was one of my favorite albums of 2015, even nabbing a very rare perfect 10 with what I described as Dante tumbling through the underworld. Abyssal's compositions always have this incredible weight behind them thanks to great dynamics and pacing, mixing death, doom, ambient, and other surprise elements along the way. You can also check out A Beacon in the Husk to really see the depths that these doom elements can mine. Absolutely devastating stuff, and a band I always drop everything for when new music is announced.
I need it!
Then we have the also highly requested Inferi. This melodic and frequently progressive death metal band out of Nashville, Tennessee has been kicking around since 2006. And despite being every bit as talented and even appealing to the same market as the Black Dahlia murder, they've never achieved the same level of success. But to those in the know, The Path of Apotheosis is a serious underground gem for Melodeath and tech death fans alike. And if you ask me, they've only gotten better with each release moving into Revenant, The End of an Era Rebirth, and most recently, Vile Genesis. Even the EPs are 100% worth your time. It doesn't hurt either that Malcolm is a great dude and a huge asset to the scene through his label The Artisan Era, dropping also amazing releases from the likes of Warforged, Abiotic, and Inanimate Existence, to name just a few. Next up is Aenaon. On the previous list I covered Psy, but there's another extremely underrated progressive and experimental black metal band based out of Greece, and that's Aenaon. Formed around 2006, this equally saxophone-infused project is the perfect fusion of Twin Peaks-worthy jazz with prophetic blackened vocals and progressive song structures. I was first turned on to these guys with 2014's Extance, which absolutely blew my mind, and then they followed that up with the equally impressive Hypnosophy and now Mnemosyne in 2022. Each of these takes the listener on an incredible journey that is utterly captivating from start to finish and with a level of drama worthy of a big stage production. Absolutely stunning stuff.
Perfection.
And as long as we're on that wavelength, we may as well also talk about A Forest of Stars. Formed just a year later in the UK, basically everything I said about Aenaon also holds true for A Forest of Stars. Just amplify the aforementioned melodrama like tenfold. Beware the Sword You Cannot See was my first experience with a band basically foregoing most of the sort of traditional black metal vocal style in favor of pure chaotic prose. It's like frantically read spoken word poetry rising to truly spellbinding levels of emotion from unbridled fury to deep palpable sorrow. There are moments on these albums that quite near bring me to tears, not to mention the compositions are next level, incorporating female backing singing, strings, and all manner of styles and approaches. Also, Grave Mounds and Grave Mistakes was one of the best albums of 2018, and I can't wait to hopefully hear more from them soon. By the way, as we go, feel free to drop your own suggestions in the comments and like the video if you're enjoying it, but next up we have Ulcerate. Now, I saw a lot of comments for this one on the last two videos, and for good reason. When people ask me for the absolute benchmark of technical death metal, Ulcerate is the first band that tends to come to mind. Formed in 2002 in New Zealand, this is tech death for those that have graduated beyond the likes of Decapitated and are really looking for something to absolutely destroy their brains, more in the vein of Gorguts. Seriously, the drumming and guitar work on these albums is just downright inhuman, with Jamie St. Marat firmly establishing himself as one of the greatest drummers of all time.
We're not worthy!
And while that would be enough on its own, the bleak, soul-rending atmospheres they managed to conjure in the process are also unmatched. I had the honor of catching these guys in a pretty intimate live performance, and I don't think I'll ever be the same afterwards. Basically, pick an album, but I'm especially partial to Vermis. Then we have Brymir. Now, especially as a huge melodic death metal fan going back to the 2000s, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I just discovered them in 2022. This is another incredible Finnish band waving the flag high for the region since 2006, and they are still dropping benchmark material with Voices in the Sky. It's a little arch enemy in its intensity, but also folky and atmospheric like Insomnium and Ensiferum. They really are the full package when it comes to speed, dynamics, and most of all fun, from the vocals to the insane guitar work. Like super catchy, but without ever feeling corny, at least in my opinion. I turn this stuff on and I just feel ready to ride into battle. Probably the perfect counterpoint after the sheer misery of Ulcerate.
Just hook it to my veins!
But diving back into that misery, we have Ken Mode. Now, of all the bands on this list, this is probably the most well-known overall, but considering that these Canadian noise rockers have been around since 1999, I still feel like they should be much bigger. In a word, Ken Mode is pure animosity incarnate. They get more across with a few simple screamed words than most accomplish in pages and pages of detailed imagery. And alongside that rusty machine crunch of the guitars and bass, industrial elements, and shrieking saxophone, it's almost enough to induce a full-on panic attack. Take Bleach-era Nirvana, Swans, and Helmets Strap It On, and you might come close to the dissonant chaos that is Ken Mode. I personally enjoy Loved and their most recent release, Null.
You should watch them back to back as a double feature and then hang yourself.
Okay.
Next up, we have Wolfheart. So another highly requested band and another highly underappreciated Finnish melodic death metal band. This one formed a bit later in 2013. There's a set of elements that's overall consistent when it comes to these guys, but I'd also argue that each album has a slightly different flavor. Wolves of Karelia felt a bit more stripped back and blackened, whereas my personal favorite, Constellation of the Black Light, felt more lush and folky. And like several bands we've been talking about, they too just dropped a new follow-up in King of the North.
The King of the North!
They keep pretty busy. There's quite a bit to dive into here, and another one to just add to your list in arguably the strongest year for Melodeath since its heyday in the 2000s. And then we have Valborg. I've had the pleasure of hyping up this 2002 formed German band a few times this year, but let me go ahead and add another because these guys deserve it. There are a lot of unique entries on this particular video, but pound for pound, song for song, Valborg is arguably the most innovative of them all. They do industrial metal, sludge, doom, avant-garde, progressive, krautrock, post-punk. Basically think of a subgenre and Valborg have probably done it. I think Enstrand is when I jumped on the train in 2017, but Chris Dahlberg, who does the written reviews on MetalTrenches.com, has been singing their praises since well before that. If you're tired of hearing the same old shit over and over again, and you only have time for one band out of these 10, I'd probably make it this one. Y'all check out this playlist for more underrated metal bands, or this one where I explore the truly unknown and obscure depths of Bandcamp. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.